Mm, I don't know. Okay. I'll turn my camera off. I mean my mic off. hmm Just let me know. Oh, it says it's live. Do y'all see that?
Uh, okay, now I see it. Yeah,
It shows live.
it's live now. Go ahead, Lisa.
Huh?
Go ahead.
What?
Get it started. We live.
Welcome. Okay.
Hold on,
Well,
Lisa.
hello.
Hold on, Lisa. All right, can you see that? Can you see it? Hello?
We hear you.
Can you see it?
We see it.
Now, can you come in with some water? And then you got to. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Soul Food Sunday. And so my name is Lisa B, and who we have joining us today are our lovely, wonderful team. Who do we have?
Step lover in his house.
Shock B, one of the ones and twos, or whatever.
We love it. So once again, coming live um, via social distancing, the new normal, whether we take that into the new world, remains to be seen, but it's definitely an opportunity for people to adapt when possible. So let's look at our menu today and start with our appetizers. I think we have some winners and losers on the table. So who do we have, Steph?
Okay, well, let me tell you. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for being here. I'm glad to see you guys and gals looking great as ever. My winner this week, I want to highlight gorgeous Prince George's County as showcased in the Showtime special Basketball County. So I was able to watch it this morning, and I was very impressed with the way our county had been highlighted and celebrated by Kevin Durant and a lot of other NBA notables for its investment in youth sports and recreation. I'm a 18-year resident of Prince George's County, so I was very happy to see a positive light shed on our jurisdiction. My loser this week, unless well, we're going to debate a little bit. Anybody want to jump in there real quick? No?
No, I agree. I saw it too. It was an excellent documentary. So yeah, it's a winner for the county.
My loser this week, um, it's on some social media stuff. I want to say Calvin Brodus, Snoop Dogg, over here arguing about rat life with a known rat. I think he played himself in terms of if you're not a hit dog, don't holler. If it's not applicable to you, don't really want to jump back out here and catch this smoke or somebody pulling up some old videos from back in the 90s when you was out there ratting and doing whatever you was doing to get your ass out of jail. So I think he's a loser. So he'll take this L from Steph.
So tell us what happened, though.
Okay.
What exactly happened?
So basically, Takashi 69 is some unnotable that he taken up a lot of social media news cycle recently. He's an informant, the known informant. He has affiliation with a lot of people in the music industry. I think 50 Cent is one of the I guess higher names that have been recently associated with him before he got arrested and incarcerated. So he did a little time now. He's supposed to be in witness protection, and I've seen him all up and down my timeline. He got a new lace front, some rainbow shit, He's over here starting an argument with Snoop Dogg, which I guess is for likes and clicks and attention because he's arguing about, oh, he might be an informant too. So that whole miserable mindset. And then Snoop, of course, as we know from our previous discussions about his demeanor, now he gonna go all the way left and argue with this young person. Like, for what? If you're not a snitch and you're not a rat, Why are you even addressing this? Nobody. I mean,
And the bigger issue, just to add to that, I'm not. I mean, I'm still a fan of Snoop, but I'm most disappointed in just his use of social media. Like we went back and forth in early episodes about the whole the Gail thing. I thought that was over the top. And he used it. I mean, like it's the kind of energy he's using as a grown man, a 50-year-old grown man, that you dedicate
That's
such
what I was going to say.
energy to. I
He's
think
not 25 figuring it out.
I think we way past that, and we should be he should be vibrating on a higher level, much higher level. And that's not even the worst. That's not even the worst of his last week. 'Cause
no.
I think some also it added to it, not to take up too much time, but adding to his woes, internet woes, is some social influencer, whatever you want to call her, IG model, whatever, that put out a sex tape with him.
Flat tummy tea.
Huh?
I said flat tummy tea.
What's her name?
Oh no, I was fucking around. Go ahead.
Oh, but anyway, so no, he took an L this week. I concur.
Yeah. Shaka, what about your winners and losers?
My winner for the week is what's her Weezy Zhang. She's a CBS reporter, a Chinese woman.
Oh yeah.
And she basically in the presidential briefing, she asked the president why he was basically making testing out to be such a worldly competition, which he always does. We're the best at this, that. And she made the point that people are dying. And then he basically said, ask China. And her response to that was she took a mask off, was like, basically like, motherfucker, what? I mean, if you could read her face, over her face, like, motherfucker, what? And at that point, she already forced him into saying something ridiculous to make himself look ridiculous again. And even her colleagues basically deferred to her back, once he went away from her, they wanted to give her a chance to follow up. And he basically ended the conference. So he just took his ball and went home. So she just bitched him. So she gets to win the week because she bitched the biggest bitch in America. My loser, actually, is a tie for loser. Originally, I was going with Nelly because he just had a terrible performance in the versus Luda. Luda crushed him. But I mean, anybody that understands the culture or the genre should have known that Luda would have won that. So he gets half an L. Terry Crews get the other L for that John Henry. That movie, oh God. I made a mistake and watched it. I wasted an hour and a half of my life. Terry, oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, Luda got to borrow that shit too, because he it was a pretty shitty movie. So I caution y'all.
So Luda's the winner and a loser?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Actually, ironically, yes. He takes an L. He shares an L. Actually, they both executive produced the album, the movie too. So, I mean, they actually thought about that shit.
Oh, you mean on that? Oh, I thought you meant from their verses.
No. Luda's the winner on the verses. He's not the winner of the week, but he won. He got that win. But John Henry, oh my God, please don't watch that shit.
Oh God, now I gotta watch it.
Yeah, no, actually, please watch it. I want you to watch it and be like, you know what, we're right. I mean, it's one of them bad movies that you can sit through the whole movie and then talk about it later.
Okay. I mean, it ain't like we going nowhere.
Right.
Lisa,
I think I'm gonna finish watching The Walking Dead, and I'm gonna check out that Durant. What is it called again? That documentary, the Durant
Basketball County.
Basketball County.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna check it out. So my winner.
It's over.
My winner. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
So my winner is whoever writes Trump's talking points, because that mug got like the art of the pivot down. So for the administration this entire time, he started to try to blame Obama for not having the tools that this administration needed to carry out, an effective preparation, and local, global and national strategy. And we've heard that this entire time, like 90 days at least. And then they find out that there was a plan. A reporter uncovered it, which if you go to the archives for the whitehouse.gov website, like all of Obama's stuff is there. You know how people will be like, he didn't. You know, the pages that he did for the Black community, anything, you know, all that stuff is there. And so among all of the things are there from his administration are plans and such. And so somebody just went and Googled it and, or however they internet searched it and pulled it up, and then they got confronted with it. And so Mitch McConnell said, yeah, there was a plan, but you know, ours was much better, right? Like that's the way. So that spin, like immediately when, like after 90 days of denying that there was any plan or you know, or any blueprint left behind, then they have to admit it and they just disregard it altogether. And that's been the pivot that they've had this entire time. And it's so amazing that you get people to just say that it's something, even if it's not. You just have everybody say the same thing, so everybody catches it, and from every platform, every you know, written or even, you know, soundbite. And I think maybe other people need to take advantage of that, right? Because it seems like our responses are very, very complicated, and we're trying to appeal to people's higher sense of self. And then all you gotta do is just say some shit that's the opposite of what everybody thinks it is. And apparently that catches on. So that's a win. There was one other thing that the administration said, oh, with the truckers, because you remember he was just giving a speech somewhere, the truckers were there. Now the truckers were protesting the fact that they're essential and, you know, their wages and stuff are, you know, impacted, when really they're the heart of our infrastructure, getting our tools back and forth, right? Like, I mean, tools, resources back and forth. So they're integral and they want to be respected in that way. And so that was part of their protest, was to kind of like drown him out. And he played that shit and was like, actually, they love me. We're going to be talking later. We got this all figured out. They love me. You know, it was for me. It was for me. You know, I was like, bruh, like what kind of a person are you? Like, I would love to know, like, what went into making that kind of a person. So that's whoever trained him in that, or whoever, you know, influenced that kind of, you know, strategy around him, they're genius. So that's the winner.
Good. I'll let you go to your user. Then I want to talk about your winning. That I don't.
No. Go ahead.
Like, I don't think that's so genius. I don't think that. I think because first and foremost, that whole strategy of just saying anything through no matter, despite the truth, is not new. They didn't invent it. He's just a shameless ghoul. There's no level of shame.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I mean, so like
I'm not saying it's great.
I get it, but go ahead, go to your losers.
Okay, so yeah, no, the idea, that's not lost on me. That it's not the best kind of thing, but the fact that they made that work with that particular individual who is completely out of pocket, you know, untenable by any stretch of the imagination. So you know how some people you can't keep on a leash. You can't keep him on a leash, even though he agreed to be on a leash.
The same was true with said about Biden. Everything was said. I mean, the same strategy.
I don't even dispute that. I don't even dispute that. But that's why I said with Biden, he's probably going to run with a full ass cabinet. Like, he's going to have to sell everybody around him and not just himself in order for him.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, no respect, but you know, everybody looking at the stuff.
Which could be a good thing.
Huh?
Which could be a good thing, depending on how it checks out. Yeah. But go ahead. Go to your loser.
So who is my loser? You know, I don't know. I can't call it. So I'll say that my losers are the people who, you know, use this time to maybe, I don't know, victimize others. Like, you know, the world hasn't stopped just because things have closed down. People are still getting hurt, you know. I'll tell you who a loser is. I got it. The loser is the daughter of the father, who was the police officer who shot Aubrey. Aubrey. Did we talk about Brianna? We're gonna save her, or did y'all talk about her?
We can talk about it.
Okay, so we'll talk about that later. But anyway, the losers are the daughter who came forward to kind of make an appeal for why her father and brother aren't racist. It's because she
I read that.
dates black men. And so
She didn't say black,
that,
not
you know,
non-white.
makes-
She didn't say blacks.
right. She sure didn't.
Oh,
She
what
sure
she said?
didn't.
Okay.
She said they brown.
She said non-black,
You
non-white.
right
So,
about that.
Oh, what, her kids?
no, she did. She basically said they
I
can't
don't know anything about.
because her mother allowed non-blacks in the house.
Okay.
I mean, or non-white, excuse me.
I'm sorry, I
Non-white.
thought it was way more deep than that, boo.
No, that's the explanation. She knows that because they would have murdered someone before now. If it
And
was
how
about
do we know
race,
that
I
they
guess.
haven't? How do they?
But
How
anyway,
do we know they haven't?
That's a good segue though. That's a good segue because with that story is a lot coming out. And I think her father's an even bigger loser than she is. So it's no surprise that
Wait,
she's
her father is the one that was a former cop, right?
former cop.
And then he had all his what is it? Citizens arrest privileges revoked in 19.
Basically, because he can't get through training. I mean, cops are not smart people anyway. I mean, it don't take much to be a fucking cop. I mean, I ain't saying they all dumb, but if you, I mean, you're not educated people. They don't know the law. So whatever, and it's in fucking Georgia. So I'm pretty sure they're not asking much anyway, because they're dumb as fuck anyway. So, what else?
You really just said that about the whole state? Are you saying that about
damn state?
cops in Georgia?
I'm not saying the whole state. I'm saying, let me explain. Let me elaborate. First of all, I mean, look at where they rank on the education scale, and if you go up, there's an actual interview of the guy Roddy, whatever the guy Roddy, the guy that filmed it. His lawyer's basically saying,
yeah,
and his lawyer's defense is that basically that this motherfucker's dumb. If you knew what school system he came from, he wouldn't know that. I mean, that was his defense. So I'm not being. I mean, yeah, it's harsh to say that shit, but they don't value education. They don't put any money in education. They don't put resources in education. Racism is basically large on ignorance. Most people that is racist in their heart and emotional, they're not very intelligent. So I'm being flippant, but I'm not being hyperbolic. They are dumb as fuck.
Untrue.
They are dumb as fuck. And I mean, look at that police department. Look at the history of that DA, Miss Jackson, whatever her name is. So I mean, I can pull up receipts on how fucking stupid they are. Thank you.
This ice was served cold by Shaka today.
I'm just saying though. So we're not dealing with intelligent people.
God damn.
But carry on.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, by all means, it can be genetic. Like they can take a genetic L. I'm okay with that. Like they can pass it around and shoot it, like that's fine. I think they all take the L for real. But moving that into some of the conversation that you just had, into our meal and main courses, I think that it is important to think about, people like that. So let's just go with the premise that you gave, that they're so ignorant, right? Okay, you'll be ignorant in prison for murder. Like that's fine. You can be ignorant. Maybe you can learn then, right? Maybe you can read more books, read some of the studies, read some of the autobiographies and some history texts to kind of figure out how you got here. Because hopefully you have enough time on your hands to do that. But I don't care that he's ignorant. He still did it. And that even takes the step back to the days when the slave patrol and then the other community enforcement, vehicles that rose from that, being able to look for Black people who maybe run away. And what we know is that not everybody was enslaved. People existed, but because you were Black, it almost didn't matter if you were taken into custody by some of these people who call themselves looking out for slaves, property, right? And they could easily put you back or put you into or back into enslavement just based on their judgment, no matter really who they are. It could be anybody. And so you fast forward that to the days where just random white people would take it upon themselves to police our communities. And they were dumbasses too. Like didn't have shit, and they looked down because they could lean on the wealthiest or the most well-dressed, and most respectable Black person in the Black community. They felt entitled to, with not a pot to piss in, ain't shit, probably don't have all of their, chromosomes, but they could police you, and what they said meant something to other people who look down on them too, but they're at least still in the same ilk.
Let me ask you this.
I see that feeding into that.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, and to your point, do you think that the Trace Act is modern day alignment or adjacent to those same beliefs? Or what are your thoughts on the Trace Act and this, what is it, HR 6666?
Tell us about it.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, basically, there's legislation that states that as far as it comes to tracking and tracing exposures with the COVID-19, that it gives them some type of latitude to enter your premises. And if it's detected, like if they can triangulate that you could possibly be infected based on who you've been traced to or who you've been in proximity to that may have had it, number one, that opens up like all types of privacy concerns for a lot of citizens. But let's say they come into your home and you and your kids live there and your kids are not positive, but you are, it basically deputizes them to be able to take you from the residence in the interest of tracking, tracing, and then isolating you. So it kind of reminded me of that. And again, I'm probably missing like a few details on that, but I just wanted to know, does that like ignite any parallels in your mind, like where we are right now?
I don't think that it's actually happening. I don't think that's a part of the law. I think they've been trying to dispel that, but I haven't read the text, because easily somebody could interpret things the way they want to and then tell you that's what it means. So I haven't read it for myself to know if the context is there that leads us to that, like even potentially, versus whether or not it explicitly states that. But I just did a quick internet search, and just like the first three things that come on from three different services, sources, both local, like, USA 9, WUSA 9, DC channel, USA Today, and then in the field. So I don't know how aligned they are, but they're all saying, no, it doesn't remove people from the home or allow, cell phones will not be updated with this special app that allows them to track you that way. I've not read.
And then we have to rely on
all things right now.
Them or not, like if that's true. So I mean, I know it's like conspiracy theory type stuff, but
I don't like Lisa said, I don't necessarily associate the two. They're not adjacent, but I do have concerns about the contact tracing. Particularly I didn't read the bill, so I'm ignorant to that. But I know that Cuomo was trying to put or is putting Bloomberg ahead, in charge of and Bloomberg's supposed to be financing the whole contact tracing system in New York, and I don't trust that. I mean, it's like, one, he's a private citizen. I mean, and even when he wasn't a private citizen, he didn't do well. I'm sorry.
Like Bill Gates.
Yeah, like I mean, and I'm less trustful of Bloomberg than I am Gates. So that is concerning. And then it also plays into the Big Brother narrative. You know how they're out there. And I hate to side with the armed white dudes in the state capitals, but I mean, I don't want the government or anybody else knowing all my business, who I contact, and going through like that. That could be dangerous. So I have mixed feelings on that. I get the point. I get the reason why they want to trace all your contacts so they can nip the virus in the bud. But and there's a reason, and there's a flip side of that. I mean, if you look at what happened in South Korea and even in China, how they were able to really clamp down on the virus based on the draconian style of their government, where they have everybody's information. They know movement. They can track where people go, basically their cell phones. So do we want to live in a government like that? I mean, do we trust this government to have that kind of that information on us? I mean, so it's a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. Lots of nuance.
Well, reading it, I'm telling you what it says that this is really trying to fund. It's about trying to fund more testing, which is what people say. Activities are making them not just the testing centers that you see, but also being able to accommodate in-home testing, because we know the problem is, where do you go to get testing? And so how do you reach the people that can't go out to get tested, but maybe need to be tested? And again, there's always a flip side to how anything that has a benefit, it inherently has the potential to exploit. So I'm not saying that we not keep an eye on that, but I'm just telling you that it says this bill does not authorize anyone to enter your home for whatever reason without your permission, nor does it allow the government to remove anyone from your home because of the coronavirus, or require you or will separate you from your children for quarantine if you test positive. So these are just some highlights that it says, and they're using the fact that it's 666 is in it, even though it's 4 6s. I don't know if the devil has 4 6s, but they're mad at the 3, so they're using that as as the ominous relationship. But I will, to your point, I was just listening to someone who was actually in Baltimore, and she was kicking it Baltimore style. She kind of had a lot of information that she was sharing with people, and a lot of it was conspiracy theory oriented, but it wasn't completely off the register. Like, it wasn't like unheard of stuff. She talked about the fact that in like Shanghai, she was like, why do you think, she was saying that we're doing too much, and that the fear is unfounded a little bit, because she referenced Shanghai. In Shanghai, she said, was because it was all these wealthy Asians there, they're going to take care of the wealthy, and so they were able to keep the virus out. Now, how, she said they had 0 deaths, and how do we think that they were able to do that if it's so bad? Well, they're able to do that after they had 3,000 deaths a day. It's because they shut down all the shit like they was trying to do here. That's why now they have like 3, right? It's not, they closed their borders, they shut down Disney and all types of these huge gathering places. That's what they did. People stayed in their houses. Now, the extra step that we don't want was that one woman traveled. I guess she traveled without authorization. So keep that in mind. That's also how they kept it down. They couldn't travel without, she tested positive and was in the hospital, and they tried to forcibly quarantine her. And she escaped the hospital and went to be with one of her daughters. Her daughter owns 5 properties. So they had to try to figure out where she was before pulling her and taking her back to the hospital. So like, that's a flip side of it. But if we're gonna use Shanghai and their relatively low test rates to prove anything, we gotta look at the whole picture. I don't want that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think, do we want them to have that kind of autonomy in our lives? And that's what they have both in Shanghai.
I mean, they already have the surveillance, but I just don't want them to have the authority to do things to us about what they know. They already know all our shit. We've been exposed. They know who we're talking to, because all of us are talking on Facebook. They know who the hell we're talking to.
Yeah, hello, on Zoom, and it's recorded. But look, the other thing,
right? That is in the cloud. They ass in the cloud. It's all in the cloud.
Well, when people are exposed to diseases like TB, and probably even, I don't know, I've not ever been diagnosed, but you always hear about them jokes about somebody having to call somebody if they're infected. The health department gotta call people. Y'all ever heard that? Mm-hmm. So they call that, they do that anyway. So now maybe the difference is,
Were they doing that with HIV?
I'm pretty sure that with most communicable diseases, the health department itself probably asked, because that's how, like when you hear about people on the plane and somebody has TB, and you kind of hear that that nobody else on the plane was infected, or they have to be able to reach those people. So I'm sure that there are other probably smaller branches of, social branches that people have to, I don't know if it's required by law to report though, or if they can volunteer to say, well, call, Johnny, Taylor or Bill, Simpson, like call them because they might want to know this information. That's crazy as hell, but they do it, is my point. So maybe, like you said, we don't want the authority, that they can do it without our consent and involvement. That's the scary part.
Agreed.
Anyway, anybody else got anything to eat?
Say what?
Anything else to eat? This is main
We
course.
want to talk about Breonna Taylor, right?
Yes. That is main course worthy. Definitely. Did you open it up, Shaka?
What you got it? Go ahead. I've been talking to you. You talk
I'm at my
about
wit's
it.
end.
Or you can talk about it. Go ahead.
I'm at my wit's end. We're dealing with probably an even more ignorant state in Kentucky. I don't know. It's unfortunate. I mean, the more that comes out, the more it just makes no sense.
Well, what has come out so far for those of us who might not have caught it?
Well, basically, they had a no-knock warrant. The intelligence, the information they used to get the warrant from the no-knock warrant from the judge was that she was receiving drugs via mail, and that was the base of the warrant. But it turns out the postal inspector said there was nothing going on in her house through her mail, so it wasn't justified. They had a no-knock warrant, but they said they knocked. So I mean, their stories unraveling.
So they didn't knock. They came there, and then what happened? I mean, like who
they
didn't.
They kicked the door down. Her boyfriend shot at one. He hit one of them, and they just sprayed the house up, hitting her 8 times while she slept. But again, the justification they're using for the warrant was that she was receiving drugs via mail, but turns out that's not true. And the person that they were looking for was already in custody and had nothing to do with her.
So
they don't even know. I mean, wrong spot or right spot. They might have been looking for somebody, looking to kill somebody there. Who knows what was going on there? No one knows because they're not telling the truth. You can only speculate.
Let me just. So they've already talked about that part. So first of all, it was the wrong address. So any reference to who she is was on the back end. So it was the wrong house. The suspect that they were actually serving on, which wasn't her, was already in custody. So this was an error. And I just read somewhere, and I have not confirmed the source, but just remember seeing it, is that he was recently given home arrest officer, but they are floating the idea that it was friendly fire, that it may not, like they've not confirmed that it was actually his bullet even, but he still had to go to jail to face charges for injuring a police officer after they broke into the wrong house after a wrong suspect unannounced. And he was doing what people should do, right? This is why I get frustrated, because all these castle doctrines, all this stand your ground and shit, that is, is very difficult for us to be, granted those same entitlements. And so what do we do to change that?
Wow. First of all, that's a lot to unpack. I did hear about the story, and the point that struck me the most is exactly what you just said, is he defended the household like the man he's supposed to be to his girlfriend who's sleeping. And in fact, his gesture might not have actually been the fatal shot. And in fact, he's probably catching all kinds of hell in whatever detainment they had provided for him after this incident. So they probably beating his ass, saying a whole lot of unnecessary shit, and all along, they are loud, wrong, and strong. Wow. I mean, the stories from, if you take as far back as like
you frozen, you keep freezing.
Okay, I'm gonna keep talking. I hope somebody caught half of what I said. I don't know.
No, we heard you. I just think the screens are frozen. Am I frozen? Anybody? Can y'all see me move?
I see you
I
good.
see you moving.
Because you're frozen, Shaka.
It's a little glitchy. Shaka, you looking good on my end. Talisa, you looking good.
All right, so let's move on. Stephanie, you got anything?
Are we going to the timeline yet, or are we still in this main course? Because I
All
got
right, we
some
go to
spicy
the
on my
timeline.
timeline.
Let's go to the timeline.
All right.
We didn't give Brianna some due discussion. I thought you in the middle of saying something about it.
Yeah, we absolutely should. Shaka didn't get to opine as fully as I feel he wanted to, so we're
No,
gonna
I
let him
did.
have this time.
I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, like I said originally, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I mean, I want them to die, but you know.
Wrong thing. As a black man, what is the wrong thing to say? I don't think there's a wrong thing.
I mean, my thing is, I think it should be eye for an eye. I mean, I think whenever a cop kills us, they need to die. Not any cop, but that cop. I think Darren Wilson should be dead. I think Zimmerman, he's not a cop, but he should be dead. I think all these cops that just wantonly kill us for no reason, just because they want to exercise their power and their white supremacy, they need to be killed. Because they're not. I mean,
by who?
Huh?
By who?
I don't care.
God,
I mean,
saying like anybody,
preferably by someone who has nothing to lose. I mean, because like
that be another white person.
No, I mean, it's a lot of us. It's a lot of brothers that obviously have nothing to lose because they're killing each other. I mean, so like, why can't we turn them guns on them? Like if you want, like.
I wondered the same thing myself.
And I hate to conflate black on black crime or the term black. I hate to conflate that, but I mean, but there's clearly some niggas on the street that don't give a fuck.
But you know what? They got sense enough to not go outside of what's normal to them.
No,
because see, they might not only get killed in the process of some shit like that. They might be on some Guantanamo Bay stuff. People in the hood that's killing each other, they not ready for that.
I do realize that. I realize it's more to it than just that. I just wish, like, in a perfect world, since you don't give a fuck about your freedom anyway, how about you do me the solid? Take this motherfucker out. That's just, if I can have my way.
We don't want to misconstrue that as you offering that up. This is.
I don't have that kind of power. Ain't nobody listening to me. I mean,
are not shared by.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'm not pushing that, but I'm just saying, what else do we have? What else do we have as a people? I mean, they've been killing us for 400 years. Like, I mean, and it doesn't seem to, nothing matters. We marched, we petitioned, we vote. I mean, I guess we can't give up the ballot, but damn, we need some more bullets on our side. Yeah, just go ahead. You can transition.
There are things we can do. You know, I do think that there are things that we need to do for our own livelihood. And some of it is really, you know, I'm going to always say it no matter what, is that anything that is presented to us is not insurmountable to me. I think that we can address it. We just have to be strategic about how we do it. And we have to have that same level of vigor we have when we dragging somebody on Twitter, like for real. Like you can do both things, right? So you can socially correct people who you believe are off code or out of line. That's fine if you feel like that's, you know, what you need to do. But then you also need to do those other things that help advance, you know, all of us still in some way. So you may not lead that. You might feel more comfortable leading a conversation about something on social media. But if the people who are leading those efforts and are asking for you to be involved and to place a vote or make your call or send your tweet, because you can reach, let me just say this real quick and then we can move on. But I was reading, now put me on to this woman who wrote a letter to the president after slavery was ending. And if I can get her name before we get off, I will share it because her name needs to be spoken. But she was an enslaved woman who, when she heard about Abraham Lincoln freeing slaves, you know, allegedly, she wrote a letter saying, look, is this shit real or not, right? She was dead ass. She was like, are we free or not? Because Miss Ann over here trying to pretend like she don't know. So you tell me. And so I always feel so moved by the fact that even a step out of enslavement, we understood that we had certain rights and we acted like it. Like, you know what I mean? Like some of the stuff we didn't act like, but we put a lot of people in office during that time. We built lots of communities after that time. So it's like we have it in us to move past and shape some of these things, because some of the people who were involved had a lot more, it was systemic always, but it was a lot more disregard, like blatant disregard. Right now, it's still there, but it was there at like all-time high, because they didn't feel like they really had to respect Black people at all. So they had that, and they still decided not to be counted out of anything that impacted their livelihood. And I just see that that's where we need to be. And I hope that as these things continue to happen, that rather than us getting overwhelmed or, you know, or confused by it all, that we kind of see that without our involvement, like this is just gonna keep happening. So, I think
I'll add one more thing as far as
okay.
what we can do as a people. I think the target needs to be these police unions, because even with the one in Kentucky, when they released the I forgot, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but the boyfriend, they released him to house arrest. The police union put out a statement talking about they let a cop kill out. He didn't kill him. So I mean, so they are the enemy, and I think what we need to do, or what we need to do is start these class action suits against not the city, not the state, or not, I mean, but the actual unions, because they're the ones empowering them. They're the ones through language, through action. They need to be the bearers. They need to bear the brunt financially, not the city, not the taxpayer. So if we can get some traction on that, where police unions are the ones paying for these paying for them. No more pay time, no more pay with leave, none of that shit. You do that shit because if I work on an industrial job and I kill somebody with my forklift or do some shit like that, I'm not only gonna be fired, I'm gonna be drug tested. So we need to have rules. I mean, we need a new bill of rights for police. A lot of that could be done by ballot initiatives, or some of it can be done by that. And I think we need to organize and actually weaponize our numbers against them, because it's more of us than them.
Yeah, you gotta get specific and give like the action steps in that deliverable to say, what would it take to make this something that we see on the ballot? A lot of people don't even know how that stuff comes to be.
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'm hypothesizing. So I mean, I don't know the exact steps.
Action.
So, I mean, but I know it's possible.
You gotta see. So here's the thing. This is why I said it's a multi-level approach. Because yes, we should be building our own finances and our own self-sufficiency outside of anybody else's, without needing anybody else, because that can co-opt your movement, your ability to be self-sufficient and independent thinking. So we need that. We need our businesses, we need our own infrastructure, whatever. But we also still need to participate in the process. And so the process really includes finding the person who's in your community who you already trust, who's doing these things. And so when they turn around to you and say, hey, we need you to do X, that y'all just do X. And like, you know what I mean? And then but that's how we got to kind of put it and make sure that everybody can participate, because without us participating, again, it's going to be the same thing, because consent decrees, even though they existed for a long time, which is basically federal oversight of police departments and police departments who have a high rates and high incidents of investigations for police brutality and undue enforcement. And the Obama administration, from what I read, had the highest number of those in place, which means they got to have action steps, action plans, and they have to be monitored by someone. Well, as soon as Jeff Sessions came, he wrote all that back, and we ain't say nothing. So now there is no oversight. You know what I mean? So there are things that we don't have to wait for a new person to get into office. There are things that we can press now, and the people who are running, that gives them an opportunity to either show if they down or if they not down before November get here, right? Because they're going to pretend to be down. Here's something you could probably move now. Will you at least try? And if you don't, then, that speaks for itself. And that's local, right? That can be local, state, and federal. So, all right. So let's move on. Let's talk about the timeline, Steph.
Ooh.
Steph, love.
Girl, I've been waiting to get into this. Okay. Okay. So, what's been going up and down my timeline this week? I have seen a lot of people responding to an old interview by a rapper, Lil Boozy, where he mentioned and I'm going to give you the backstory and then give you the meme that brought all this conversation to today. So basically, Lil Boosie had mentioned in an interview a few years back that he had solicited a prostitute or paid some woman to engage in sexual intercourse or some variation thereof with his then 12-year-old son. And so there was a meme that popped out this week that was like, and I don't know who posted the original meme, but it started a lot of discussion where someone said, I'd rather leave my son with Lil Boosie than Dwayne Wade. So the debate there is that Dwayne Wade was in the news earlier this year for um, investigating, researching, and learning about his transgender daughter, Zaire, I believe is her name, and that he, instead of castigating her and shunning her for her belief in her expression of self, he decided to investigate it and try to be more supportive, more demonstrably supportive. And so at odds are, on the one hand, you have Lil Boosie who thinks he's going to uh, F the gay away, if there's any there, you know, that turning a 12-year-old onto a full-grown woman for sexual intercourse and activity is going to make sure they're not gay, versus Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, who were being supportive and interested in the expression from Zaire that they're transgender. So it's a very interesting debate. I think that a lot of men, I've seen a lot of, let me say this, I've seen a lot of ignorance from men and women on this particular discussion. There are men that are like, yes, absolutely right, I'd rather leave him with Lil Boosie, but there are a lot of men and women who can look at the sickness in that statement, is that you'd rather have your son molested on purpose versus allowing them to express and experience the feminine elements of their personality. Now, again, I am not transgender. I don't know anyone transgender personally to speak on their behalf or what that might be like to have that experience, even in their children. I don't know. But on the one hand, I know that if Boosie were saying the same thing and he had a 12-year-old daughter and he got a grown man to, you know, make her a woman or whatever you would call that shit, you know, I think that we would be jumping down his throat and slamming his ass in the next cell beside R. Kelly, I think. So, Lisa, what do you think?
He getting it. He getting it now. He's not. I mean, you know, the ignorant people are going to be ignorant because they don't see it. They see it as a fantasy come true. Just like, you know, those jokes about when your teacher molests you, you know, you get to have sex. You know, you hear how it's framed as such a positive thing. Lots of TV shows back in the days were kind of created around, you know, that quest for sexual experiences, you know, coming of age story. Like from when we was teenagers and we was kids, like Porky's and all that kind of shit, like, you know, and everything that came after
from your teacher
was about like quest. Yeah. So it's supposed to be like, you know, times change though. And I think one of the things that's happened is, you know, we have to decide whether or not we love our Black children or not. Like, do you? Because if you do, we want children to be well. You know what I mean? And so being well means that your goal, the parent, is to do no harm. Yeah. But, you know, minimize the amount of trauma, because life is. So it's going to happen, however, you know, it happened. But as much as you can control to keep that trauma and those negative impacts down, you should. And that means listening when you start to get new information, right? When you get new information, you have to change how you process things. And it should be, you know, something that you definitely are attuned to as a parent. So everybody's not equipped. He doesn't see it. And usually it's based on their own experiences as to how they arrive at where they are. So if people are honest about their own experiences and whether it caused confusion, and I won't take up any much more time, but I just want to align it with how the R. Kelly thing came out. And they would say, they 16, they old enough to know better and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, you actually realize that there's still this uneasiness in allowing a situation like that to happen. And it's not safe for them. And even when you think about people talking about, well, you remember those girls who was fast and they was in the car with those older guys up at school. And I was like, yeah, y'all keep shaming the women like that, but you don't hear none of these old ass men saying, yeah, I used to drive around and pick up some young girls.
Thank you.
You don't hear them bragging about that shit because now we know that that was a problem.
I think as a culture, we need to fucking cancel fast, because you have to look at it from what is the stimulus that triggered this behavior in these young women, young ladies who might not have had any better role model, and they sometimes were being pushed off on older guys by their older women in their family to say, girl, he got a good government job, you better hook him now. You know, like, this is not uncommon shit, you know, to hear. And I hate that, you know, in this day and age, we're still labeling somebody 13, 14, 15 as fast. That fast to me, when I hear somebody call somebody fast, my instinct says they've been exposed. Okay, y'all ain't gotta get quiet and shit.
No, I was trying to formulate my thoughts.
Okay.
First and foremost, I think it's a false dichotomy to pit how Dwayne Wade raises his kid with how Boosie raises his kid, because they're not the same. They're not opposites. They're not even on the same level.
There you go.
I don't have kids, and if I had a son that wanted to be my daughter, I'd be taking it back. I would imagine. I'd be like, whoa, that ain't what the doctor told me. But yeah, but understanding the time that we live in, I would like to think that I'd be able to understand and at least understand and not react. What Boosie did, that was child molestation.
Absolutely.
And my disappointment don't really lie with Boosie so much, because he's obviously ignorant as dude. He's proven that on myriad ways. So to quibble about what he does, I mean, it's kind of a exercise of futility, because the nigga's dumb. I mean, he really is. But my disappointment is in all the brothers that don't see that shit and make arguments, weak ass arguments, to equate to or somehow make it seem like Boosie, look what Dwayne Wade did. At least he ain't Dwayne Wade. Like, no, nigga, hold on.
Right.
I mean, that's what bothered me deeply, and it's hard for me to have this conversation with some of these dudes, because some I generally respect them,
Exactly.
In their daily lives, how they go about the shit, but they say that dumb shit. I'd be like, come on, man, like, what's wrong? Like, how you don't see that shit? It's a no-brainer. Like, that's yeah, at 12 years old, I'd have loved for one of my uncles to be like, yeah, pay for somebody something like that. I'd love that shit. Yeah, of course. But I'm 12 years old. I'm not the age of discernment. So once you reach the age of discernment, you should understand that shit is just toxic. And that kid is gonna have so many. I mean, he's not gonna be able to relate to women. He's not gonna be able to respect women. He's not gonna be able to develop deep, even friendships, because he's looking at, look what that mouth do. Other, you know, so it's an imbalance that he's creating, that has ramifications that's gonna reverberate throughout his lifetime. So that to me, that it's hard to have that kind of discussion, and it leads to other discussions, like, you know. Like when I and these same brothers, when the topic of like feminism or the toxic masculinity, they shut up. They don't want to have those conversations, because they find themselves end up having to defend behaviors that are untoward and embarrassing even. Because if you defending Boosie, man, you an embarrassing ass nigga. Like what else you gonna go ahead, keep talking? Like so no, I mean, so it's hard. It hurts me to watch some of these conversations, and some of the dudes that actually respect say some really, really, really dumb shit.
And then to think that population of people that we're talking about, they were hurt. You know, they don't realize it, and they don't understand. They have, like, whoever put the old broad on them, they sized it. They're like, yeah, you about to get this, yeah. You don't realize what you interrupted in that 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old years life.
I mean, this culture
interrupted in terms of their development and their innocence. And I know innocence is kind of like a loosey-goosey statement, but in the fact that you weren't able to, let's say if 12 years old was your age, that means your innocence ended there. You're effectively trying to negotiate and navigate adult feelings, emotions, and expressions, and you barely can bust one. I mean, it is ultimately sad. And I'm only speaking about the boys because we look at the girls as being more victimized, I believe, mostly because there's penetration involved. And unless there's a opposite situation, like in the Catholic Church and that whole scandal, where there are young boys that are definitely being penetrated and just debased. So, I mean, it's the way that society in the past had celebrated, and as Talisa mentioned, you know, these are things that in the media they were fantasies. This was like the ultimate dream for a lot of people. But now that we're 30 years out from that, and you see how that manifests in people's lives and how they have these attitudes about women's bodies and even about consent. I mean, it's because their lines were blurred very early on, and I don't think that that's something that you easily recover from without even knowing how to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
even
without
talking about it, even discussing the lines of blurred, because we live in a construct, we live in a patriarchal society. So a lot of these things, I think, with my peers, black men, sometimes we get reticent to have these conversations because we think they're talking about us as black men, when really it's not us. We didn't create this construct. We were born into this shit. We were born. The 21st century was about patriarchy. It was about top-down leadership, men dominated women across the globe. So a lot of these things, when we get offended and we don't want to have these conversations. They tend to shy away from these conversations when we should be leaning in the conversation. We're like, we didn't create this shit. We didn't create this white supremacist world, because all that shit is an extension of white supremacy. I mean, it really is. I mean, even though it exists throughout the world, a lot of this shit is an extension of white male power, white male domination. And instead of the conversation focusing on the whole construct, we kind of get defensive and say, "Oh, they talking about us. They attacking black men again." And no, it's not. I mean, especially when you got black men like Boosie, not making him out to be the worst black man ever, because he's not. Because I'm pretty sure he's a good man at the end of the day. He's just ignorant, and a lot of our people are ignorant. I mean, and not to make it regional, especially in areas where he's from Mississippi, where education is devalued. I mean, and you know, so we gotta be honest about what we're dealing with. So even though Brucey has a platform, he's not Michael Jordan. He's not somebody. He's not trained. He's not skilled in media, how to navigate those things. So he's just saying shit. And with social media, we all can say shit. I mean, but we have X amount of followers. Some shit's gonna resonate more than others.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we have, so you had your timeline. So I guess on my timeline is the class of 2020. You know, let's give them a round of applause, because they are handling their business. And it's not just the class of 2020. It's the class of 2020 because they're graduating and they're reaching a milestone, and a lot of the symbolic and celebratory opportunities have kind of been taken from them, and yet they still adapted, right? Like, so, you know, you'll see the signs out in front of the yard for just recognizing them, like a graduate lives here. Like, these are kids who basically, you know, we're setting up to be our future leaders, and they have to remember this moment, and they have to remember what the impacts were, and whether or not they were able to rise above it. And many of them are, given nurturing and supportive environments. And some of them are doing it in spite of that, in households that are not functioning, you know, as easily and safely. And so they're still here. And so I think it's important that we, you know, start to look at these young people, not just the class of 2020, but all of the students who had, you know, who had to kind of work through this, where we went from just going outside to, do you have your mask? Do you have your wipes? Do you have, you know, if your family even has access to any of that, right? you know, there are kids who you can see are making it through because they're outside and their whole neighborhood goes to the end of their driveway and somebody pulls out their DJ equipment and plays music and they do exercising together, right? Like that's not everybody's experience, right? And so some people had to live in a house that wasn't happy, where parents were arguing, or that they didn't have any support, or that they had to start taking care of their siblings, or that, you know, whatever the little impacts that come with being home, they've had to deal with that. And so if they don't have a house that is as safe and comfortable as other people, then what are they going to do? They're going to go outside and convene with people and be around people. And I'm not just saying just people in that experience, but I'm saying it's a human nature kind of thing anyway. And a lot of our kids have had to deal with what it looks like not to be able to do that so freely. So they're keeping up with it. They are, I think they'll be forever changed. And hopefully this compels not just them, but, you know, not just us, right, for now, but them to kind of make sure that they keep their finger on the pulse as they get older and these responsibilities become their own. Anybody else want to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. So I definitely want to celebrate and applaud this year's graduating class. I think that they, as a group, as a collective, have endured a lot that, you know, folks from my day, we didn't. Because this class, if you think about it, not only do they have this latest interruption, but they've also been impacted more so by the different school shootings. There have been a lot of other things that have been disruptive to this last 4 years. And although with the quarantine and the stay-at-home orders in effect everywhere, there were years where kids were scared to go to school because they thought they were going to get shot. So I think that their resiliency is tremendous. I think that they will be able to look back and say, you know, wow, that was some crazy stuff. I'm glad that we didn't get sick. I'm glad we didn't lose anybody. And I'm going to be even this more proactive in my community because of the COVID-19 quarantine. And then I also want to, you know, also celebrate some of the younger graduates. So not just the high school and college graduates, but we have folks that were graduating from pre-K this year. We had some fifth grade graduates going to middle school. We had some sixth graders that were graduating and going to middle school. And we don't want to diminish any of their accomplishment just because they were kind of the small fries to be, you know, impacted by this. But also for all of the Aries and Tauruses who lost y'all birthday parties this year, I want to say a special shout out and have a shot just for y'all because I live in a house with some Tauruses and we've been trying to make it happen. For my 9-year-old, we tried to do a Zoom party on April 30th and it was interesting. So my husband, his birthday was Friday. Also interesting, can't do the normal things that we do to celebrate. I have a almost 5-year-old who'll be 5 on May 22nd.
You had them all, everybody coming out.
Listen, we got everybody over here, and don't tell nobody because I don't want to get our house shut down because it's more than 6 people over here sometimes. But it's family. But no, the 5-year-old told me flat out, she's like, I don't want a Zoom party, mommy. I said, okay, well, I just want to order some stuff on Amazon. So that's probably what we're going to do for her. And she told me that. So, but I definitely applaud all of the people who have had to forego the social gatherings that they normally have. So Mother's Day was different. Father's Day will most likely be different as well. So keep your head up, everybody. We're going to celebrate. But I think that I'm very happy that there are a lot of my favorite restaurants still around that are delivering and doing the curbside. That it has really made life tenable because I'm not cooking all day every day for everybody. We're just not going to do that. So cheers to you, 2020. You guys, my MVPs.
As for me, I don't necessarily feel bad for the 2020 graduates so much as I feel bad for those that have-nots, because those are the ones, they're the ones suffering more right now. The graduates, they're gonna be okay, especially those that have resources and can go on, can still learn and still further their education. But it's the ones that don't, they're losing a great deal. Not just educationally, but as far as food. A lot of kids were getting they only square meals were at school. So they're losing out. So that's where like my concern and my sorrow goes with. Because they're the ones losing. Ones who have parents who might work in the service industry or the hospitality industry that took layoffs and not being made whole. Those are the ones that really are going to lose ground during this pandemic. And I think as a culture, we need to provide or create the apparatus to look out for those, because we're gonna have a lot of our people falling by the wayside, and that's gonna have a whole cascading effects, crime and violence, poverty, hunger, homelessness. All that shit is gonna be exacerbated by what's going on right now. So I'm less concerned about the graduates, and I'm much more concerned about those who's already struggling, because their struggle is increased tenfold. So my prayers are with them. The graduates are gonna be all right. This is something they could tell their kids, like, you know what, I was part of that COVID class. I mean, that's really something like that's something that they could talk about. It's a story, and it's gonna make a lot of them. There's gonna be a lot of great young people being made out of this, coming out of this. A lot of people, old people, because a lot of people
a lot of people, period. A lot of people, period. I think that especially like small businesses, this type of relief money that they're getting is the closest they were going to get to getting any type of capital funding from a bank.
If they get it though,
anything else, they wasn't getting it nowhere else.
That's if they get it. I mean, because most of that money went to corporations that's well in the black.
That's true.
So I mean, it's hell of a time to be alive.
It is.
I'll drink to that.
Okay.
I say.
Yeah. So I think that what we need to do is make sure that we're closing the gap. You know, we don't have to wait for anybody else to do it for us. You know, you check within your circle. Everybody check within their circle, and they check the pulse of everybody in their circle. Make sure they're okay. Even if you can't give them money, you know, just checking in, making sure some of the older people who live by themselves, you know, you check in on them, making sure that they're okay. You check in on your nieces and nephews and little cousins and see how they're doing. It's our responsibility to create small villages so that we can create larger villages, and then, you know, kind of able to support our community internally. And then still use the resources, because them tax dollars, them our money. It's like somebody taking the money out your pocketbook and then deciding where it go. Like, you need to be a part of that. It ain't free. If we opted out, that might be different, right? But we're not opting out. We can't opt out. If you opt out and you don't pay your daggone taxes, you'll know what it feels like. You know?
Well, hopefully we will get some of this next round of stimulus soon. I know that they have been working hard to approve the next round. Have you guys heard anything about that for individuals? Most likely the economic stimulus.
Certain stupid somebody said it's dead on arrival. That's just what I heard about from a certain stupid somebody.
Not only that, but they took it back.
To be the uplifting section.
No, I mean, I'm just saying though.
They just took out the money. They took out the stimulus, like that, the Heroes Bill. They took out the stimulus part for the money, and something else that they took out to put it back up there. So I haven't read it. I got to read it and see what else there is to it, you know? But that's what they prompted. The Heroes Act, give you a couple $1,000s, and they walked that part back. They worked two. If
I'm in Congress, I don't know if I'll give them that, because the first package, they just stole all the money. They gave it to their buddies. Yeah. I mean, so there's no. I mean, he's defying all the inspector generals. I mean, not to keep going back on.
Don't give a damn.
I mean, he takes up so much bandwidth. I hate to keep going back to him, but he got rid of so many inspector generals. There's no oversight, so the money just going there. I mean, you're talking about trillions of dollars where they just give it up to their friends.
Of imaginary money, trillions of dollars of imaginary money that we'll never.
It ain't imaginary. It's printed. I mean, it's fiat money. It's definitely fiat.
Is it back, or is it just?
It's not back. So it's fiat money, but it's usable. It's
usable. It's usable in the same way monopoly money is usable when you're playing that game.
Yeah, but they're playing Monopoly, right? But we ain't got no pieces on the board. That's the problem. Like they got the thimble, the card, the hat. They got all the pieces. We just watch it. We just spectate.
We just watch.
So that's
we got to put our pieces on the board because it's our board. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, shit, how can we afford to not be?
I mean, that's what a revolution is for. I mean,
absolutely.
That's what
we piggyback on your earlier where certain groups need to be involved in taking out certain other groups.
Well, no, not a violent revolution. I'm talking about a more of a human
you know
revolution.
What? I think ultimately, and this is sad to say, it's going to end up being a violent revolution.
No, but I don't think it has to. I mean, I think it has to.
It doesn't have to, and I don't want it to. But
let me say this. I don't think that's the smart route because we outgunned. It has to be a human revolution, like where we have where empathy comes to the forefront, where we actually got to change our fundamental way of thinking. Yeah, you shaking your head, but
towards each other, but we're not gonna change minds and hearts.
No. I mean, but
how they feel about us, that won't ever.
But again, it's not all of them. All right. So
no. Of the ones it is, you'll never change them.
No, you have to though, because really, like, I don't want to say they're a minority because they're not necessarily a minority. What I'm saying is that there's a hardened few where they're locked in on that white racism, white supremacy shit, and then there's a like I call it the whimsical white middle, where they can go either way. You got white people that voted for
white middle.
I mean, because they're the majority. So that's who they're the ones. They're the ones that like we have our numbers are just enough to change certain things, but they gotta be educated. They gotta be turned into because white supremacy is not working for them either. They don't know it, but they're losing.
Yeah, that's why I'm not so on that part. So that could be somebody else's. There are lots of people who like to bridge gaps and they like to help.
No, I don't mean to bridge gap. No, it's not about bridging gap though. It's about taking leadership. No, I'm not saying trying. I mean, but you gotta lead, but you lead by example. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the tribalism part where we have a lot of people like who think that it's black and white, and it's not just black and white. There's a lot of nuance to black and white. There's a lot of nuance to this racist structure we're in because people at the top, Mitch McConnell's and all them, yeah, they probably racist. I'm sure they don't like niggas, but they use race as a weapon. They don't use it. It's not used. They're not using race as their core convictions. They're using it as dog whistles to do things like
to maintain their economic foothold.
Exactly, and it's more white people suffering. Especially let's go talk about Mitch McConnell. His state is like 90% white, and they broke as fuck because why? Because they're addicted to the racist rhetoric, and they don't see the fact that he's robbing them blind. So it ain't about teaching them; it's about leading. And sometimes I think as people,
who though? Like seriously,
our culture.
You mean us? Like us. You?
Right. We lead ourselves, and those who want to join can join, but they're not really joining.
They will join, yes, they will. There is enough like, and I hate to keep going back to the Democratic primaries, but look at who had a real coalition. Not Joe Biden. The real coalition was with Bernie. He had Hispanics, he had whites, and he had blacks. What he didn't have was a media that was going to push his message, and he didn't have older black people. We were stuck on the status quo. We were convinced that nobody can penetrate this. So it boils down to having a concept of what we really want as a government. What kind of government do we want? Do we really want a government where corporations run everything, or we want a corporation where we run everything? And this is democracy. So who has the power? The corporation has the power.
We clearly do. But that's why I was saying when you said it's not us, I'm like, as a contingent, we can't, like you said, the things that we can impact, that's what we need to start with, And then as we create our own lane to be able to exist and have a little bit more influence in terms of what happens within our communities, both, again, inside and outside of politics. Like, I think that we can get to that point, but I just don't think, and then the people who see us working who want to join, that's great. But I just didn't see the I guess, the benefit of trying to continue to convince people to see us as human, to see us, to believe in us. Like, if you don't feel that after you see, hear about Brianna chilling and sleeping in her own bed in her own house, and you outside fighting, talk about you a slave because you got a damn mask on. Like, those people, if you ask them, they wouldn't say
no, they're not.
racist.
They're lost causes. They're not the ones, but they're a minority. I mean, they're loud. They're a very loud minority. But not everybody's running out with guns, and when I mean, because so even this whole COVID situation.
Not shutting up. They're not speaking out. They're not really speaking out either. They're kind of quiet. They're not.
Yes and no.
No, they're not speaking out. No, because they see it as a lot of the people who would say that they're not racist are saying that this is about liberty, right? So they're not thinking about it. You couldn't convince them that
I'm not talking about them though. I'm not talking about them though.
Okay, well, that I'm saying that if they're the vocal, and then the people who don't think like them ain't saying shit, then what you permit, you promote.
I mean, so but most of these people that's out there, they're protesting white governors. So it's not like they're going out there saying, "Look, we're protesting these niggas." So it's
no,
not.
I know. But here's what my point is that we're fighting for liberties too. So I'm saying is, why is it that you can jump your ass up and want to fight for liberty? For America and what America stands for, but then you have your fellow Americans, right, saying, hey, this is happening. Can you pay attention to this? And they don't say shit about it. Like, so I'm saying that they're not even necessarily saying that they're fighting because they think all of a sudden they found out Black people dying more, disproportionately from COVID. And so now they don't care anymore. Like, maybe it's that, but maybe that's not.
That's largely it. That's largely it. Well, I guess my point to you is that that's a fraction of the white community. We're talking about white people now. No, because again, go back to my point that they're protesting white governors who supported by other white people. So it's not a Black versus white thing as much as they would like to make it. And we got to resist falling into that trappings that it's a Black versus white, whereas we got to be.
That's not what I think, though, and that's not my point. But I get it. I get what you're saying. I guess I was making a different point, but it's okay. I mean, I think it is what it is, right? Ultimately, I think that we both agree that we've got to focus inward. You know what I'm saying? And some of the stuff we got to do to prepare ourselves to work with each other, and then work outside of our communities to kind of take command of some of these things that are happening around us. And, and it feels, it's like the rope-a-dope a little bit. Like, they say when boxers fight and they just start, beating your ass, I guess. And so you overwhelmed by the blows, so you can't really respond. I think that's kind of.
I'm gonna need you to put a little more respect on Ali's style of fighting, the rope-a-dope. That's Ali, and rope-a-dope, technically, he got his hands up, so he's not getting beat. He just letting him punch his man out. Just taking it. Yeah, you might get a little shots in between, but that's rope-a-dope. Just Okay. That's the GOAT. That's the original GOAT. We got to respect.
It's not the person hitting, it's the person defending. Okay. So thank you for clarifying that. But the point is that the punches are still coming, right? And one after one. And what happens is people get overwhelmed by that, and they don't see a way out of all of that. But I am hopeful that we'll do whatever it takes, whether we join together and all can come by y'all, that's wonderful. Like, I welcome it. My emphasis will continue to be on, a certain subpopulation and being inclusive of those who understand and willing to fight for our, cause. I'm welcoming that, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to go look out and try to build that. You got to be ready. One way or the other. You either already believe, then I'm with you. But if I gotta still talk your ass into it,
I totally agree. I'm not trying to convince nobody. Like I guess that's what we missed. That's what the disconnect was. Because I'm not talking about them white boys with the guns. They're not reachable.
I'm talking about anybody. The indifferent
or the Karens and Beckys that support them, or who are who have those microaggressions. That we all know so well. But I will say this. I'll say that the universe is on our side. Like we were born and raised most of our lives in the 20th century. 21st, that was the Piscean era. We're in the age of Aquarius, where enlightenment and knowledge is more, it outweighs the ways of the old world. So we in the new world, and the universe is on our side. So I think we got to take some solace in the fact that all this shit is happening right now. It's how it's unfolding. It's because the meek are gonna eventually inherit the earth. Hopefully in our lifetime, but it might not be our lifetime. But we gotta do our part to push it push it forward. Because our culture, the black culture, the hip hop culture, whatever you want to call it, how you want to classify it, we the meek, and we're going to inherit this earth. I mean, we.
You said the hip hop culture was meek. We meek.
I mean, look, we dying. We the ones. I mean, we talk a lot of shit.
We getting fucked up, but that don't mean that we're meek. We just overpowered.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
what the hell? Listen,
I don't. When I say meek, I don't mean meek as in weak.
Whenever
I said meek as in
no, seriously. Take the media as the poison, and you say they doped our generation up from 92 till whenever. And we're not the meek. We were never the fucking meek. We're the best equipped to deal with this shit. And I think that because of the way they treated us and designed us in the 90s, we're less able to provide the impact that we need at this time. I think a lot of us, we succumb to the chronic culture, and there are a lot of people that haven't done any type of preventative health initiatives on their own family. There are a lot of people that drink Hennessy and eat bullshit all day, and outside of us trying to purchase all of the Lysol and Microban products, we're not doing more to strengthen our personal immune systems. And even mentally, we're not doing enough to safeguard negative shit from getting through our filter into what we digest, and then further spew on to our next generation Z behind us. So, I mean, I can't say we're the meek. We're definitely.
Well, that's what I meant by meek.
I mean, meek as in neutered.
Meek as in in the biblical sense. In the biblical sense that in the meek when they speak.
Absolutely not.
Biblically, when they speak to the meek shall inherit the earth, I'm talking about the most downtrodden.
Like the innocents, maybe.
Huh?
Innocent?
No,
we're not innocent. We're not innocent. We've been abused. We've been we the lost tribe of Shabbat.
Victims. I don't want to say we're victims, even though we've been victimized.
I mean, we are. I mean, we've been victimized.
But we're not victims. Look at meek. It's so many of us that are so strong.
Let me look at the definition of meek before I argue with them.
Okay, yes. Maybe we need to define meek, because when I think of meek, I think of people who are not equipped or enabled to fight.
All right.
Quiet, gentle. Go ahead.
Easily imposed on, submissive. And
we're not submissive, and we're not easily.
We are. Yes, the hell we are, man. Come on. We just been talking about Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. They pay for that shit, and neither has the last 100, 500, whatever many
I'm
unarmed people.
Specifically to Generation X.
Well, I mean,
not meek.
We don't want like
what are you going to do about it? That's really what I'm asking. I'm asking for our peers to take the leadership role that we have previously not snatched from the boomers. Why the hell haven't we?
We have though. We have.
No, we haven't. It's because we're meek. It's because you niggas are meek.
We haven't snatched nothing from them because they not letting this shit go. We're gonna have to wait till their ass die.
And that's not true. That's not true. Okay. I think that what here's what happens. The message never. Okay, so if there was a movement brewing, whenever we've had COINTELPRO jump in our shit, why was it? It wasn't because shit was stagnant. It was because the movement was growing. People started communicating. People started connecting. And I think that that's the same thing that happens here, is that it's intentional, that the image that we have is that we may not have, because I think we're disjointed. There are lots of people acting. There are lots of people in politics who we can trust. There are lots of people, not everybody, right? But I'm saying there are lots of people who are starting businesses and who are positioning themselves in leadership.
What's a lot of our elected leaders selling out though?
Listen,
a lot of them are selling out.
Development amongst the Black community is at an all-time high. But guess what? Most of those businesses don't ever grow to be anything big. They don't, and I'm talking revenue, I'm talking staff, I'm talking about impact. They don't get big. You know why? Because we don't impact the legislation enough to make it so. The people that are still benefit, we're talking about these old ass corporations that basically just usurped all of the fucking PPP funds before anybody else had a chance to get it. These are these old companies. This is not anybody from Generation X. And I'm speaking specifically to us, by us, because it means more coming from us. When we hear some shit from the boomers or we hear something from the millennials, we don't give a shit. But we never snatch the mantle from the boomers. And I don't know that we can. We have such a high level of regard for the boomers.
Because we meek?
Huh?
Because we meek?
No, we're not meek.
You got to make up your mind. You on both sides of the argument. Stephanie Mathis is on both sides of the argument.
I mean,
we're not meek, but we've been sunned. We've been sunned, and you recognize that.
Now you playing semantics. Okay, now it's a semantic game. We're not meek. We the sons. Okay,
that's the same thing.
I don't want to say we're meek because that's not our.
I mean, we don't want to admit that shit.
But our intention. It is our circumstance.
But that's what I'm saying. I guess you know what? I don't have a Bible. I need to get a Bible. But because I'm a heathen. But the scripture says the meek shall inherit the earth. That's what I meant in that term. In that the meek, like we are the children of Israel. We are the Palestinians. We are the abused population that will one day, once we rise up, will inherit the earth. That's the point I was really making. So,
well, can I just say one part about that though? I do think that figuratively, right? That is true. But I definitely think that even if we're looking at what our position is, and let's just say we're not where we should be, I think that there is something about still looking and working from the place of the downtrodden that still feels a little problematic to me, even though we have a lot of people who are failing, a lot of people who are struggling, and a lot of people who just are apathetic. We still have quite a few now, who are doing the things that we say should be done. And I think that it's for us to, just because we don't see it, which was my earlier point, that's a strategy so that we don't all connect to the things that are happening, because then you feel the energy of a movement. That's by design. But that to me doesn't mean that there isn't a movement. It doesn't mean that we haven't started flipping some of these cards around in these, in these places, but we're just disjointed. So we haven't necessarily been able to connect en masse. But that to me doesn't mean that we're not doing that and that we are just waiting to be victims. So while the meek shall inherit the earth, meaning those who were, who appear to come last shall come first. Gotcha. Which hell, maybe, how we shift time, maybe we done lapped them. So maybe that's what makes us look like we last when we always been first. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like we gotta determine what we think, how we see ourselves. You know what I mean? And then be a little bit more glass half full, because otherwise I think we're gonna miss the movement because we're thinking that nobody's doing anything, and that back to the rope-a-dope reference, that the hits are coming so fast that we can't recover and act, when actually we move in double time maybe. So just keep your eyes open for the work that's happening and join that work. That's all I'm saying.
I totally agree with that. I think the key is to be able to look out for the tribe without being tribal, because tribalism is what's killing. The nation as a whole. The design is to be tribal, because if we all hunker into our tribal ways, and ADO is this, West Indians that, Africans this, white people, because they're not tribal. They're tribal, but they're tribal in a financial way, in a financial way. They know how to be, and they weaponize it. And when we follow suit, we can't win. We don't have those numbers. We don't have the resources. So I think we got to really guard against tribalism while still looking out for the tribe. Because the tribe needs love. The tribe needs attention. But we got to know how to manipulate others too, because others are suffering too. And we can use those numbers to get where we need to be. And we need to resist being like the Latinos or the Muslim, that's their issue, or the gays. No, it's not. We all like there's an empathy deficit in the nation, and it's by design. And we can't keep looking at ourselves and our own suffering without seeing the suffering going on around us. And that's where some of my brothers lose me. Where it's like, oh, just black. No, they don't help us when we doing it. It's like the fuck they can't help us. They in fucking cages.
Great question though. But is that important? Isn't it important? It's not important. It's not important enough to not help your fellow.
No, it's not important. It's ridiculous.
Listen to what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. It's not. I'm not saying that we should not help other people. What I'm saying is, it's not disingenuous to expect to see somebody else's reaching out too. Like I think we be reaching out. And so I'm saying that maybe more people will be susceptible if, for example, now Asian Americans can say, wow, this shit is crazy, right? Like who knew that we would, since the days of putting Japanese people in internment camps, right? Like that's not just in the past. Things can change very quickly. So now maybe y'all need to stop looking at us as the people who are faking it and using a crutch, because when you look at Nigerians, when we talk about sometimes the disenfranchisement, because we're connected and we love each other, but there's sometimes little splinters. And so maybe now that they can see how the president shut that shit down, it's like we're not going there. They made Nigeria an outcast, through global policy, right? So that is like, so now we got to start, now those same factions who looked at us like the pariah, like we were making mountains out of molehills and not grinding it out, which we've been doing consistently from the beginning of time. Every bar they set, we meet it, they set a new one, we meet it, they tear it down. So we have a history of overcoming that. But those people who don't recognize it and think we're just bringing it on ourselves, maybe now is the time that they start standing with us, and and then we can work together. But I'm not interested in always being the one trying to reach out to them. That's No,
and my intention wasn't to reach out to them, and with respect to them, the issue with them, as far as I see it, is them coming in our community with their cheap goods, making money or off money, taking money out of our community. That's my issue with them. So that's a separate issue. And that's something that needs to be addressed as well. And that needs to be put on the docket. Like, you know what? But yeah, I get what you're saying. That now I didn't mean that to take everybody's struggle and carry it as a torch. But I'm just saying is that as leaders of this movement, we've been in this game since 1619 as far as fighting white supremacy.
1400.
1400. I mean, but we got more experience than anybody else in this world with dealing with these people, this beast. And the beast has been much worse to us than everybody else. So we need to learn how to weaponize the fact that everybody hates the white man right now. Like, how can we use their disdain for this beast to further our aim or the collective aim? Because what's good for Black America is good for all of America. I mean, nothing that we want in this life, from this country, does not benefit everybody else, including white people.
Right. Well, hopefully we see that eventually. Maybe they'll see that now.
More see it now. I think the gift of Donald Trump is the fact that he's showing them that what white supremacy brings you. It brings you more poverty.
The thing that trips me out is that they've been seeing this. I mean, it's been on display. It's been disguised in a couple of presidencies, but that's always been the goal, hasn't it?
It has. But
Obama, Bush, Clinton, Reagan, all of the presidents since I've been alive, that's been the goal. So what was it like before then? I was born in 74.
And we got short memories. I mean, we got short memories because it was because of Bush that they voted for Obama. They was like, this white dude is so bad, and the white, But after 8 years of sensationalized media, I mean, because the media is really the issue, and I think social media is the equilibrium. I mean, if we can do away with some of the disinformation, if we
can we trust Zuck? Your ass be in jail.
We can't trust Zuck. I mean, but I'm saying, but I can trust you.
Yeah.
And Zuck he can't. I mean, so it takes a level of discernment, but less discernment on the social media level. I mean, barring
Cut our shit off.
misinformation.
We're gonna put a filter up. If we start saying the wrong things, he's gonna be like, "This is most likely false." We're gonna.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, but the fact that we can share real time information about what's happening, like we couldn't, like when we did before social media, all we depended on the mainstream. We depended on NBC, CBS, ABC, and they're corporate owned, so they're gonna push the corporate message. And corporations,
They're gonna play to the
especially the ones that underwrite the news, or they're not our friends.
Nope.
I mean, the oil industry, the health industry. I mean, they're all people that want to make money
They
off
are
our
the
pain.
people that are responsible for making crack a scourge and heroin and opioids a disease,
An emergency.
but they are the people responsible for the spin, the media.
Yeah. Okay, so anybody got any closing remarks? Anything for the dessert? Anything they want to talk about in closing?
Wishing y'all a great week ahead. Hoping the president gets COVID-19, the worst of all cases.
He probably got that shit. He's the Antichrist. I'm telling you, he already got.
Oh my God, y'all so funny. Look, I'm gonna tell you who the lady was who I said wrote the letter. Right.
Oh, okay.
So those are my closing remarks are around how accessible, and whether y'all love it or not, Obama made government accessible. He made it accessible because he was young enough to embrace technology at a time when, imagine if the White House didn't go online. He put everything that he ever did and talked, well, I don't want to say all that. That was a stretch, but the information was there. In the history of our country, they had a page about what policies and how they impact the African-American community on his website. Now, whether he carried it out, whether he did enough, whether blah, 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 whether we were helpful or not, like, that's not my argument. My point is that by having a Twitter account and being able to send messages from the White House, and then all of our House candidates and all of our senators, they all followed suit. So I'll tell a quick story, and I think I shared it before, but a long time ago, I was with my mom, and she's always into politics. So we went to some senator's office or somewhere, and at the time I was young, so fax was the primary way to contact them. The fax machine was off the hizzy, and they kept running out of paper. So they would fill it up, and it just run, and all the paper. So by the time we got there, it was a whole bunch of paper on the floor that had overflooded the fax machine. The calls wouldn't stop, the phone wouldn't stop ringing off the hook. Now, I don't remember what bill that was, but that was the first time that I actually saw how people in volume impacted. They made them have to talk about what that was going to be. You know what I'm saying? Whatever issue that was, they had to talk about it and they had to deal with it. And I'm saying that now we don't even have to write a physical ass letter. Like, you know what I mean? In 2020, you can tweet, you can email, you can go to their website, you can call. Like, there's so many things.
Only thing I say to that is post Citizen United, where it doesn't matter. Like now, it's not about the people that take their time, the fax and send phone calls. They largely ignore now. They don't. I mean, after Citizens United, it's about who has the money, because money.
I know. Okay, so then let me say this. So again, when I talk about accessibility, I didn't mean to stop, and this wasn't even really my point because we in the closing. But I'm not saying that that's the only way, the primary way, the best way. I'm saying that has always been a thing, right? Is how we rise up and we talk about it. We put certain issues on the radar, and whether or not we just like directly reach out and talk to our senators or House, and Congress members or stuff, but even the people who are investing in them, even the people who have lobbies, like those are still businesses. They also have a presence. They also have information about, not their personal information like their family, but I'm saying their financial interests. You know what I mean? So now, just like we can reach out there, we can reach out there. So even whether we have some capital, because we got PACs, there are some political action committees out there who are fighting for a variety, some conservative, some progressive. So it's kind of like we we have to do multiple things at one time, and it doesn't have to be everybody doing them, but everybody's got to find what they can easily plug into and do. But my point was that earlier I was talking about why it's important that we reach out and do those things. And I wanted to give honor to Annie Davis, because that's who I was referring to earlier as someone who was literally just out of enslavement, not even out of enslavement, because the people she had to she was in, you know, she had her who was in charge of her livelihood. They basically was denying that they could no longer hold her. And so she felt compelled enough to write the president and ask for clarification of their policy. So I'm saying in her honor, if she can do that as an enslaved individual, we can do a little bit more than we do to kind of engage our government around the agenda that we want to see, the certain things that we want them to do. And whether they listen, if they don't listen, then you hit them pockets. And I think that now all of that is more accessible than it's ever been. That's it.
Let's say.
Agree.
All right. Anything else for you, Steph Lover?
No, baby, I'm good. This has been a wonderful discussion. I appreciate all of your intellect and input. Both of you guys make my Sunday, and I appreciate you.
Anthony said hi. He's out there feeding geese.
So he out there socializing with
Tell him we're going to dock his pay.
He out there catching COVID.
Yeah, they socially.
That's smelling like COVID-19.
He said Captain COVID. All right.
Captain COVID.
All right. Well, another Soul Food Sunday dinner.
All right. What you have for dinner, by the way?
Well, I don't know. My husband is on the grill for our anniversary. Yeah, I want to shout out my husband, Jermaine Arrington. It's our 6th wedding anniversary, and he's on the grill getting these wings together. So I'm going to hang up and get on my wings.
I'm going to shout out to Miss Diva Cakes.
Hey, our favorite.
Well, we had some, I know y'all heard of chicken and waffles. We had French toast and fried fish.
Is this the French toast pound cake
French
that y'all
toast
gonna
pound
make me
cake,
kill
yes.
you for?
Yes.
Damn.
I got you.
I need that in my life. I do.
Got you.
It's my birthday week.
Oh, actually, it's our birthday week.
I know it's your birthday week because we almost got alcohol poisoning together last year in Dominican Republic. So happy early birthday to Shaka and Diva Cakes.
Thank you.
Well, you know, your homie's birthday is on the 14th, so she's a weirdo Gemini.
She's a gem too. Much love to her. Give my
all
love.
the Geminis and the rest of y'all Tauruses that ain't getting no damn birthday party because of social distancing.
That's okay.
This one's for you.
We don't social distance here. Y'all be good.
All right. Y'all take care. Be safe. Talk to you next week.
All right. Peace.
Okay.
Bye.